You'll need to have a credit card or bank statement in a PDF format. And what we like to have is the first page of the bank or credit card statement and the page of transaction. If you pay by wire transfer, you must include the wire form, wire transfer request. If you pay by check, you must also include the check image with the corresponding bank statement. And the cash receipt must indicate the person that you paid, must be signed, and the amount, of course, that was paid. Now, proof of activity, it varies on the activity, but for domestic trade shows, it should be mostly your photos, invoices, and your proof of payment. Okay, now we're going to talk about the ineligible expenses. And these are all itemized, but they're kind of grouped together. Under travel, there are no reimbursements for travel related to domestic trade shows. And that also includes like ground transportation or parking, gas, any of that. That is not an eligible expense. Materials that do not promote your brand name. Purchased custom booth displays constructed of permanent materials. We have a lot of companies that will design their own booth. It'll be a permanent booth that they move from show to show. That cost is not eligible for reimbursement. Costumes or sponsorships, delegation fees or membership association fees, those are not eligible. Fees for participating in U.S. government-sponsored activities other than trade fairs and exhibits. The media press releases, those are not eligible. Cost of additional badges other than what you initially purchase when you get your booth. Meeting room rentals are not eligible. The second section is for your temporary labor cost. If you have your own, if you bring your own employees to these events, their wages are not eligible for reimbursement. The independent contractors, travel costs and meals, that's not eligible. Demonstrator wages for an employee of your company, that addresses employee wages as well. Keep in mind that wages for temporary labor are limited to 8 hours. There are no overtime eligibility. Sales commissions are not eligible, training fees, or parking. Cost of product samples, those are not eligible to pay for your actual product. If you do not have the U.S. market approved in your fund match application, that would also be a problem because you would not be able to apply for your show, your domestic show, until, of course, you added that country market. Ineligible printed sales materials. POS materials that do not promote your brand name, business cards and seasonal greeting cards, those are not eligible as well. Sales materials for unapproved fund match products, we do go through those and they'll be prorated if they're not a listed approved product. And this last section is for giveaways. And items that do not promote your brand will not be eligible for reimbursement. Items that are tied to purchase, like if you have a 2-for-1 coupon or something like that, those, anything that's a price reduction or a coupon related to any of your products, that will not be eligible. Domestic advertising, including online, digital, and printed advertising, is not eligible. Only the costs associated and expenses associated with the pre-approved domestic trade show are eligible for reimbursement. Now, the next couple slides focus on the claims process and claims submission. And when you get done with your activity, you must submit your reimbursement claim online within 60 days of the last day of the show or the completion of the activity. WSATA receives the claim electronically and will review it within 30 days of submission. If the claim is incomplete, we will request additional documentation. You have 15 days to get that into us. And once that's done, then we just complete your processing of your claim. If the claim is complete, however, it arrives with everything it needs, WSATA simply processes it, sends it for approval, and your payment may take up to 14 days to be dispersed to the company from the time of approval. Now, claims are submitted online, and so you'll submit your claim by signing onto your WSATA dashboard. You select the claim tile, and there's a little orange button that says Start Your Claim. Hopefully, at that point, you've uploaded your documentation for your desktop, and it would all need to be separate. For instance, separate PDFs for your invoices, for your proof of payment, and for the photos that you may need. You click on that program tile, you expand it by the years. You'd select the 2024 year and click that claim tile, like I said, and begin your claim. And if you need any help in this area or in this process, reach out to me and I'm happy to give you a call and we'll walk through the process. Now, if there's any of you out there that are not WSATA participants yet, keep in mind you can sign up today. You just head to www.wasata.org and click the sign up tab. It's in the upper right. Fill out the details of your company, and the WSATA team will vet and approve the company. And once you get your approval, you can go out online and explore all the different opportunities in our Global Connect program and our Fund Match program. And this brings us to the end of our presentation. I just want to thank you so much for attending. I also want you to know that at the end, I'll be sending out a follow-up email once we've uploaded this recording to our website. And you'll be able to refer to that at any time. And also, too, you'll be able to reach out to me if you'd like to have a one-on-one consult. You can also post your questions at fundmatch@wasata.org, and we can take care of you from there. So I think, let me reorganize my show here and get to some of your questions. Okay. I'm back. So does anyone have any questions? Let's see, Lucy, to clarify. Can't see that reaction anymore. There we go. All right, Kelly. I'm going to start with you. You're kind of at the beginning of the list. Eligible expenses. We often purchase demo supplies and even branded shirts in larger quantities that we need for one single show to save costs. How do we approach this? Well, those are certainly eligible expenses. You can get the number of shirts that you need. You know, a lot of times everyone wants to have a fresh shirt every day. So you just submit in your photo of your garment that you're using. Make sure that it's got a brand promotion on it. And the invoice will show how many were made. And you submit that with your proof of payment and a photo of the shirt or item that you're doing your branded project with. Does that help? Yes. Next question. What about cheaper fabric booth backdrops? That's a really good question, right? What they do is determine if the banner or booth backdrop has a useful life of more than 1 year. So if it's considered more than 1 year, it is considered permanent. And what happens is when you order these banners, you will get that information from the designer or the person that's making that production. If it's one that's you're just going to use one time, yes, that's eligible. If it's one that is created that you can use during several shows, it probably will not make that eligible. And yes, you can feel free to unmute once we get done. Once I get done with this list of chat questions, we can unmute and you can ask additional questions as well. That's from Chris. And for Mike, for international trade shows, do you have to exhibit in the USA Pavilion to be reimbursed? Yes, let's talk about international for a second. You do, if the show has a USA Pavilion, you do have to exhibit in that pavilion. If it does not have a USA Pavilion, then you may select anywhere on the floor that you'd like to exhibit at. Does that help, Mike? Just message me and let me know. Okay, so this is Lucy. To clarify, do you apply for a fund match before or after the event takes place? How far in advance should we apply for fund match? Great question. If you are going to go to Expo West, for example, I would say definitely apply now because it'll take a little bit of time to get your contract in place and get yourself ready to attend Expo West. In answer to your question about do you have to apply for fund match before? Yes, you must have your contract and fees paid prior to the event. Shelley, I purchased banners in December to spread out costs and prepare for Expo West. May I submit those receipts? Yeah, absolutely. There's many expenses that companies will incur in preparation for a show. And sometimes they even have to pay for the booth a year in advance. And yes, we accept those expenses related to that specific show. And what we do is we base the show activity or that expense activity as the last day of the show. So in preparation, you may do that, yes. Ms. Lopez, what happens if the expenses go beyond the approved amount of fund match? Okay, so I'm thinking that you mean if you have $2,500 in funding and you spend more, you need to have more in reimbursement. Well, the good news is you can add funding at the time that you submit the claim. You can also add it once the claim has been approved and you know the exact amount. You'll just pay the 6% on the difference. Let me know if that helped. A question with Chris. Do we submit one claim per show or one claim per approved marketing plan? You submit all of your expenses for that show. You may have 10, you may have 5. Sometimes some of our larger shows, there may be 20 different expenses on there, but you have to put all the expenses associated with that show in one claim that you submit.
This is Chris. May I ask just a clarifying question there to make sure I understand you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so in other words, if we're going to do 10 shows, we don't wait until the very end of the 10th show. We can file a claim after each show.
That's correct.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Within 60 days of the last day of that show.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You bet. And I'm not sure this person's name, Farnash, was the minimum reimbursement of $2,500. What if 50% of your eligible expenses are less than $2,500? Well, the minimum amount of funding is $2,500. And so we would accept your application after we've reviewed it. We would determine if you have a solid $5,000 in eligible expenses. And, we would discuss that with you, because we wouldn't want you to apply for funding, pay the fees and that, and then receive lesser. So we're always going to counsel you in that way. What if the USA Pavilion is full? That's a great question, Mike. If the USA Pavilion is full, you can, notify us. We can work with you through that and sometimes they do give exceptions outside the USA Pavilion. It's not common, but definitely we'll normally go to another vendor, see if there's some way that we can get you in. So if that ever happens, be sure to reach out to us immediately. And our new fund match manager is Blaine Rickley, and he would be able to help you through and guide you through that process. And Alicia, got another question on international shows. If we are wanting to co-exhibit with a local international distributor, can we request to exhibit outside the USA Pavilion? No, that won't be an allowable activity at that point. You have to exhibit within the USA Pavilion. And Cheryl, do you pay administrative fees and application fee for each trade event? Okay, so you pay a $250 fee once every calendar year for your contract, for instance, for 2024. And then your 6% fee depends upon your funding. So if you add funding, you're just going to get charged that 6% of that difference. And I think that's the end of those. So do we have some folks that have some live questions they'd like to answer or like to ask so I can answer?
I'm sorry, I had trouble joining, so I just wanted to clarify the 250 application fee. I was coming into the call, I think, as you were explaining. Would you mind just telling me about that
sure.
again?
Sure. It's a $250 application fee per contract year, which is a calendar year, like for instance, for 2024. And then separately, there are administrative fees at 6% of your funding.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Can I show the timeline slide, please? Yes. Let's just back up a little bit through there. Was that the one for claims or the one for application? I'm assuming it's this one. Okay, Cheryl, is this the one that you wanted to see?
Hello.
And what was the question on this one?
I was just wondering how long each step, now I can't see it because I'm looking at the participants. But I'm just wondering how many days each step takes.
Like on the submit the claim, review, allocation, how long each one of those takes?
Yes.
That's a good question. Okay, so it depends upon how long you take to submit your application online. Some folks may take a couple days to do it, depending on what kind of products they're putting on and what kind of information is needed. The review of the allocation or the application once it's received, it takes some, sometimes it can take a couple weeks, up to 3 weeks. It just depends upon what our volume is at that time. And to get it reviewed, that would be the same amount. And then signing the contract may take a couple days of back and forth for the emails to go back and forth. And then you're ready to go.
Thank you.
At that point, you would, yes.
Hi, sorry, I have a quick question about the co-exhibiting with international distributors.
Yes.
Can you, so we are new to Asada. We've been working with the Food Export Midwest historically. And I know that with them, you could request to exhibit outside on the floor. I understand if that's different with the two organizations, but could you clarify if that's not able to happen, why on the application is it an option to pay the international partner directly? Like what would those charges or reimbursements be for if it wasn't for a trade show?
Well, I'm not sure if I understand exactly what your question is, but I'll take a stab at it. Okay, so as far as the exception to being outside the USA Pavilion, that would have to be something like we discussed. You'd have to reach out to the fund match manager, inform them what the issue was. If you choose to exhibit outside the USA Pavilion with your in-country partner, that's kind of a different situation. And if the show has a USA Pavilion, that's a requirement. If you go to a show and it's your in-country partner and they don't have a USA Pavilion, then you may select any area on the floor. If you have more questions about this, I'd really like to get into a more detailed conversation. So if you just shoot me your email, I will give you a call and we can kind of talk through every single scenario. Would that be okay?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, do we have any other questions?
I have a comment. It would be great if USADA would start considering the sustainability issues around trade show materials. And that's, something that all the shows are looking for too. Expo West is reusable materials. So if there's some way to prorate banners or things like that in the future, I think that'd be super helpful because obviously we're trying to move away from single use as much as possible.
Right. That's a great comment. I will definitely kind of forward that on because that is a great comment about that.
I have a question.
Yes.
In the application, there's additional information asking for a Dun & Bradstreet number. Is that a requirement?
It is a requirement.
Okay.
And there's a link that you can click on. I do know that there's I get feedback about the cost and that thing. And I know that if you click on that link that we have within the application, it'll take you to a spot where I don't think there is a fee. And if there is, it's very low compared to what's normally charged. Did that help? Any other questions?
Hi, Diana. This is Chris again. Can you talk
Hi,
about
Chris.
some of the most common old mistakes that you see in applications or things that hold applications or funding up? Just things that we should all be getting out ahead of and dotting our I's and crossing our T's.
I think for the application process, it's to be sure that your products are 50% US grown and that you do meet the qualifications of being a small agribusiness and, just what we discussed about, within the presentation. If you ever have any questions about it too, I can always jump on a call with you and walk you through the application process. But I do find that the feedback that I get consistently is that if there are a lot of products that a company has to enter, that sometimes that's a little bit cumbersome for them. But the idea is that once it's done, you're done, you're completed. And you don't necessarily have to do it next year again. You just have to add or make adjustments to any products that you've changed. So that would be probably my number one comment that I get. Also too, I get a lot of questions about it. They'll contact us and it's like maybe a week from the show. And that is always a really kind of stressful scenario for the company, because that means they have to get that application in quickly. So I always recommend, if you're, considering going to a show, get your application in as soon as possible. Did that help answer your question? Did you have anything else more specific?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Well, do we have anything else?
Yeah, I was just looking at the application on another screen, and I see they want our marketing plans. I'm curious how in-depth that needs to be.
For the marketing plans, it's generally you name the show, and then it gives you kind of a note field that you'll put in there, like, I'm going to have a booth expense. I may have, if it's international, we're talking about domestic today, but if it's international, it may ask for travel expenses, things like that. They don't get super specific, like $50.50 or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a, it's a budget. It's a proposal, like what you plan to spend for that expense.
Got it. Thank you.
And, sometimes let's talk a little bit about that application process. Setting your budgets for your different country markets and that, I always kind of recommend everyone to really take a solid kind of view about what those expenses will be. I know for the domestic shows, it's always kind of a good plan to take into consideration what your booth cost was, what your rental was, and maybe what your expenses would be associated with your POS materials, and kind of add those up and, use that kind of as a base, what your product showcase will cost, that type of thing. And then you'll be able to really kind of give a solid budget, that will work for you.
But it's just an estimate. It's not binding as we
it's just an estimate. And, Shelley, another thing too about that is that always remember you can add funding at the time of your claim. So say, for instance, you ask for the minimum amount of funding and you end up, being able to expense more, that's just fine.
Hey, Diana, I had a question. Someone else asked on the chat earlier, but just regarding if we place an order for a bunch of, say, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, stuff that we'll use at the show, give employees at the show and potentially hand some out. If we order significantly more than we might use for that show, do we just do we prorate that, or how does that work?
So what you're saying is that you have an invoice, you've given out all your shirts, and you had more to get, you want to order more, like for the next show? I'm understanding that correctly.
So we're headed to Expo West. I might order some shirts for use there, but we might only need, 15 or 20 for that. And I might order 50 or 100 because those are the minimums, or that's the better pricing.
Got it. Okay. So what you would do is just let us know on that invoice. You would put, used 15 shirts, and we would just prorate that amount.
Okay, great. And then I had one other question, actually. So I know you don't do the permanent trade show booths. If we just have a booth that's pretty much a banner hanging from a support structure, is that something you guys help cover the cost of? Or if it's kind of the main structure of the booth, do you not cover the cost of that?
So is it a banner that you use at all your shows?
I don't know how long it's going to last. It was pretty affordable, but still something I'd like to include in the WSATA Fun Match.
Certainly what I would suggest in that case is going ahead, submit in your banner cost and any research that you have on there. Your invoice or the company that you work with should be able to give you an idea of how long that banner is going to last. If they say that it's, kind of a transitional banner, less than a year, that's fine.
Okay. Thanks.
This is a great question answer period today, guys. We covered a lot. Do we have any more questions? Well, it's so nice to be with all of you today. Thank you again for your time. This will be uploaded to our website in a few days. You'll receive that follow-up email from me, and feel free to set up personal one-on-one consultations with any of your upcoming domestic shows. I can help you through that. We have NRA coming up. You do need to be in the USA Pavilion for that show. We have Expo West, of course, and Seattle America's coming. So feel free to reach out, and I'll give you any assistance that you need.
Diana, there are some other questions in the chat.
I didn't see them. Sorry, I got caught in production. Oh, what qualifies for small or medium business? Will you have a presentation to drill into international shows? Okay, first question is from Atlas, what qualifies as a small or medium business? And it's supported by the SBA guidelines and your NAICS code number that you set up. And will you have a presentation to drill into international shows? Yes, that's actually on the schedule for March, I believe, and international travel is for February. And oh, Atlas got a little screenshot of the SBA guidelines, and there is your table right there. And are there any questions that I'm missing? Let's see. Nope, I don't think so.
So I have another question again as I'm looking at the application. So it says list all ingredients and then the percentages. So it's every single ingredient, every single herb and spice, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to list all the ingredients that are in your products.
Yeah, okay. It's just a very long list. Thank you. Oh, excluding water. Okay, yeah, okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Anything else? I don't want to miss out on anybody here. Okay, I think we're set. Everyone have a great day today. And like I say, there are some upcoming webinars that are out there on our schedule. You can sign up for any of them. I have all the international activities out there, as well as claims processing and most asked questions, things like that. So we look forward to serving you with these webinars this year, and it's great to see all of you.